All right, creating a GIF. So we started with the storyboard. We draw out our elements to kind of show how we want to make this. It's a great way to begin so that you don't get confused, but feel free to improvise once you get into the software. And let's see what it looks like. So this is what it looks like. So what we're going to start with, and you can see this list on Canvas, you will open up the Figma original artwork that you made for your logo. You can type anything in, so you don't need to bring the type in. So let's go to Figma. So I go to Figma. This was my original artboard. I just took a small part of my logo, and in this Figma page, I made a new frame, and I made the size 10 by 80. Nice and square, which you can see I did here. After I did that, I pulled the type out, and then I just did File, and I exported it as a PDF. Make sure you know where this PDF is going to be exported to so that you can quickly get to it. After you made the PDF, we're going to move into Photoshop. Right, so the next thing is opening up Photoshop. So hopefully you've been able to download Photoshop and have access to it for free. If you don't, feel free to work on it at home for homework or use one of the labs on school to access it. All right, so this is the completed GIF that you're looking at, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the software and how it looks. To one side, which is the right side here, are your panels. They're called panels because when you open them up, they have this panel format. And then to the left side are your tools. They're literally the tools you'll click on to do your actions. So you will be using Move tool. We'll talk about the paintbrush. We'll talk about the eraser. We'll talk about the type tool. And you'll be using these set background and foreground squares. The foreground is for using the paintbrush, and the background will be if you wanted to fill in a whole background. Down below, if we're going around the frame, is the timeline. If you're missing timeline, you can come up to Windows and select it. We come back here, the other one that we use, and you can see that there's layers here already, is the layer panel. Layer panel and time panel is available in here. So layers and time need to be checked off, and tools. I would have all these checked off. All right, so that's kind of what you need to actually see when you're working in Adobe Photoshop for this project. So let's move on how to actually make this on your own using the panel and these eyeballs to turn off and on the layers that you want to relate to on the timeline. And when you open it up, you'll get something that looks like this. You're going to add a new file. And when you add a new file, remember all this information is available here. I want you to open up Photoshop, create a new document, and then we're going to put in the same size that we had for the Figma, the 10 by 18. Make sure it's pixel. And then we're going to make the DPI, which is the dots per inch, the resolution. So this is going to be logo, DCC. Then we're going to make sure this is pixel, which it is, and this is going to be 10 by 80, 10 by 80, and then we want to keep this at 100. Oh, and let's keep the mode at RGB. RGB is made for digital screens, digital phones, not print, only digital. So this is perfect, and we're going to create. So last look if you need it, and then hit create. Remember that you can pause this video if you need to slow it down. This is what I was talking about for the next task. You need to select animated frames. So we haven't placed the image yet. We'll come back to that. We made sure that the timeline is open, and now we're going to make sure that it is the frame animation, not the time video, the frame animation. And then we're going to create that. So now we have our one frame, we have our layer with our one frame, and then we have our blank document. Let's now place our image. So let's go to File, and then we are going to place linked. You go to your desktop, and you're going to find that I have that logo Figma PDF, and then I place it. I'm going to select it. This is, if you see more than one PDF, it's because you ended up showing all of them. You can just select the one you want and place it. The next thing I would do is go to Layers. You got to make sure you hit this check mark or double click on it to make sure it actually is in the file. Right now it's a placed linked image, and we want to get rid of the linked. We want it embedded into the file. So I want to go to Layers, Rasterize, Smart Object. All right, so we made this into a rasterized image, so that now we can really work with it. I'm going to make a copy by grabbing it and putting the box with the little plus on it, which makes a duplicate. This duplicate we'll put on the bottom, and we're going to not use this one. So I'm going to turn the eyeball off, and we're going to make sure we don't use it. This will be our original. If we need to go back and use it to grab it, we can. I'm going to make another copy of this so that I have all 6 of my images there. The nice thing about copying it from the one we're deleting, they'll all be exactly the same. So I have my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. After that, I'm going to start by turning off all the eyeballs other than the one, which is 1 that I want to work on. All right, so I'm going to show you how to erase, but I also want to show you how to manipulate it by painting it. So because the background is white, I can just paint over these images to get rid of them using the paintbrush. So if I'm going to use the paintbrush, I need to make sure that this top is white. And I could have done it by doing that. You can clear it back to black and white by hitting that little icon here, or I can use the arrows to move it back and forth. Once I do that, I can also go up to here and I can choose, and I want to make sure I choose the hard. You'll see folders here. Click down and choose the hard one. Also realize that there's size here, so I'm going to keep it kind of small. You can always go back up here and adjust the size. So if I wanted to paint out some of these elements, I could just make sure I'm on the right layer, and I can literally paint out the elements. If I wanted to add elements, right here, this allows you to select the color. So if I wanted to add more to it, I could grab the eyedropper, take the paintbrush. As long as the color is the one on the top foreground color, I can add new marks. Now I'm going to talk more about how you can use the eraser. Eliminating all the images to a few, and then slowly progression to more and more images. So I am going to use the eraser, which is here. I'm going to make sure everything is off except for the one I'm working on, and that the one I'm working on is highlighted, and then I'm going to erase. Now if the eraser tool is too big, you can always go in here and reduce the size or increase the size. So I'm just getting a few of these out. And then I'm going to go to the next one, do the same thing, but add a little bit more. So make sure you're on the right one, and then you won't get that weird mark. So there's just a couple more here. And then the last one, everything should be back. Here we add the type. So I like to just go back to the Figma and grab the type if I can. And I can select the type. I grab the type tool now. So I've introduced you to the type tool, the eraser, and the paintbrush. And I'm just going to drag across. And then I'm going to, since I copied, I'm going to do Option Control or Command V underneath ones that are visible. So you want to turn everything off except for the one you're actually working on. So we're on Actual 4, and I need the type to be on top of it. Now I can go back and I could change the color if I want to the green. And I can also change the fonts to a font that's found in here. So color is up on this board and typeface is up here. And then let's go back to something a little bit more simplified. And then what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to move this to the side because it's slowly going to come in. And then I copy again. I'm not changing the art. I'm just moving the type in. After we make all the elements, we're really close to being done. Now it's just making sure that the right ones are turned on with the eyeball and that everything's laid out the way you want it. All right, so I got the image manipulation done for 1 through 3, and then 4 through 6, I've got the type treatment. And you can see that the type is above and the image is below, and I need to have those both on when I'm building these frames. So the next thing I want to do, just because I want a white background and not this transparent background, I'm just going to add a new one, new layer. And I do it again by adding that little box there. This is a little bit more sophisticated. If you make sure the white is on the bottom, you can do command for Apple, command delete for Apple, or control delete for PCs. Now you can't see that erased mark anymore. All right, so now this is just turning everything around on. So this is back for my background, and then I should have one of these on. So this first one, I'm going to grab that square plus again on the lines and add my 6. I'm going to go to the first one, and I'm going to make sure that first one is turned on. Only the back is turned on, and I want to turn on that first one. First layer, which is my first frame. The back and the first frame. Now it's going to fill in the rest, but don't worry about that. We'll select number 2, and we'll turn these first one off, and we're going to turn it on the second one. And then we'll do it again until we have all of them done. Making sure we turn on only the ones that are meant to be for the frame. Once you know and are double check that these are correct, see this one isn't the correct one, I need to click on these two. And then for this one, I need to make sure that these two are on and these eyeballs are off. Double, triple check to make sure that these are correct. This head should have the back and it should have the top. This should have the background and keep it white, and then the second iteration, and then the last one and the back. So then the final thing is testing it by running it. And what else I need to do is I just need to make sure that I change the speed. So I'm going to stop it, and under here are options for changing speed. I'm going to select it. I'm going to make this a little bit longer in speed because it's my stopping. Now you can change all of them singularly or play around with that to find what kind of speed you want. I kind of like it really fast and then slow when I think it's done. So it gives it that stopping point of completion. And that is how you make a GIF.